It's Joe from Joe's Country Junction, and I'm here today to share a little with you about using the program EQ. This is a quilt I got when I was thrifting with Calissa one day, and the block kind of just was interesting to me. You can see here it's kind of like a square and a square. I thought I would go to EQ and see if I could design that on EQ and come up with a quilt pattern. And so I know many of you have been struggling with EQ, and I thought maybe you'd just like to come along with me for the day and see what it's like to work on EQ. And I'm not a pro. I've only done a few quilts, but Kayla was so helpful for me and gave me the confidence to keep going with it. So maybe I can give you some confidence to keep going with it too. So join me at the computer.
Okay, I'm at EQ now, and we're ready to start our project. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to design a quilt from scratch because we're trying to replicate the quilt that I showed you earlier. So we're going to do design a quilt from scratch. I am working in EQ 8, and I have bought EQ in the past before and been frustrated with myself because I didn't actually use it. I just bought it and then I tried it a little bit, got frustrated and quit. And after I blogged about it, I know many of you have said that you had the same frustrations. And by all means, I'm not a pro at EQ, but I'm learning enough that I feel like I can share a few things to make it a little bit easier for those of you who already have it. And I also think it's just fun to watch somebody design. So I thought I'd just do a video and we'd see what I come up with. And if you guys enjoy watching designs being put together on EQ. So across here, we already clicked the new quilt button, so we're ready to go there. This shows different layouts that we're going to do, or that we could do. We're actually going to go with an on-point layout because that's the way the quilt is that we are trying to replicate. And let's go into the block table first, and let's make our block before we get too busy with the actually designing of the quilt. So here we go, over to the block table, and right, if you look on the upper right of your screen, you can see there's a button that says Quilt Work Table. That's where we put the blocks in at. But if we want to make the block, we're going over to this Block Work Table. So here we are clicking the Block Work Table. We are going to be making a 9x9 block. And to do that, we're going to go over to the left side of the screen where you see this Easy Draw button, and we're going to click the Easy Draw button. Here, this is where you set your block size. This is already set for a 9x9 block, so it's 9 inches by 9 inches. If you wanted to make a different size block, you can just highlight that, put 12 in there, and then push the Enter button, and push 12 there again, and the Enter button. And if you want, you are always working in finished block size, not in unfinished block size. So right now we really do want to be the 9x9 block. So we're going to change this back to 9. So highlight it, hit the number 9, push Enter, highlight it, hit the number 9, Enter. And over how I figure out how many snaps I want and how many graph paper cells I want, the thing that I do is I take 1 inch has 4 segments in it, 4 quarter-inch segments in it, and so I take 9 times 4 and I get 36. And this is already set up to have 36, and this is already set up to have 36. And that's how I prefer to do it, is to work in quarter inches, because that's how we would cut them once we get to the cutting table, and that just makes it easier. So we're making a square and a square style block. And so to do that, we need to know what half of 9 is. So half of 9 is 4.5. And we need to make a line to design our block in this area that we have already put out for us. And so we're going to go over here to the left again. We're going to push the line button. And we're going to start at 4.5. I'm going to click right there on that dot, and I'm going to pull with my mouse, dragging it up to here to the other 4.5. I'm going to click again, and I'm going to drag. I'm holding my mouse down and dragging down to the other 4.5 side over here. And I'm going to do that again over here. Well, let's just say that I kind of got off track and went there instead of at the 4.5 button, and I need to erase that line. So go back over here on the left-hand side and pick the pick button. So that's pick, and that pick just means that you can deal with any kind of line. So click on the line, and then on your computer keyboard, push the delete button. So we need to get a line again. So we're going back to line, and then we're going to click this right here and go down to the 4.5 mark, which is right there. We're going to click and drag up to this over here. Now you can see we have that square inside of a square. For the block that we're doing, we are going to be making a 9 patch in the center of it. So we have to figure out how to get a 9 patch into here. It's doable. It kind of looks like, oh, how are we going to do that? But it's very doable. Let's count the bigger dots along the side. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 there, 9 divided by 3, because we're making a 9 patch block, so there'd be 3 blocks along the side. So we're going to draw a line from the 3 to the 3, so we have to make sure we have the line button. And so we're going to go from 1, 2, 3, the third line, down to the third line. And then we're going to go up here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 from the third line to the third line. And then down, we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 from the third line up to the third line. And we're going to do that again, 1, 2, 3. And just that quick, we already have our square in a square. I just love how easy it is. And remember, if you get a line in the wrong place, you can always go pick and you can delete it, or you can use the edit button and edit it. So now we have our block the way we want it. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to color the block. So we're going to go up here on the upper left and see the color button, and I'm going to click the color button, and we're going to color our block. EQ already comes loaded with these basic colors in it, and they're not very many colors, and if you're going to make a scrappy quilt, there's really not enough colors to really make a true looking scrappy quilt, but we'll do the best with what they have here. Maybe sometime, if you guys enjoy watching this, I'll show you how to import fabrics, because that's kind of fun too. I've been playing a little bit more and have been working with some fabric lines, and I very much enjoyed doing that. So we need to color this block. And from the quilt that I'm trying to replicate around this area right here, it kind of has tealy aqua and blue mixed together. So we're going to go over here. We're going to click the paintbrush, and we're going to click the color we want. And you can see that it was highlighted. And then we're going to come over here and we're just going to click the button, and the color shows up just like that. It's kind of like a paint by number. It's kind of fun. Very easy. And let's pick another color, and let's go with this darker one. There really aren't, like I said, a lot of color selection choices. So all I'm doing is clicking and then coming over here and then clicking again, and then that's how the square changes to a different color. Boy, I wonder if this teal one would work. Yep, that could work. There's one more teal one. Well, that can work too. And our quilt, we don't want to leave this just white. We could, but let's go with an actual print. I think it's more dynamic looking if we have a print. And so I'm just, I clicked the color I wanted. I came over here, I clicked the area that I wanted it to be. I think you've maybe seen some of those things online that you can like color a picture by number online. Maybe you've had a grandkid or a kid do that. This is kind of the same thing at this point. Well, we can see we have our block, and that's the block that is in the quilt that I got at the junk store. And so now it's time for us to save our block because our block is ready. So let's go over here, way to the left. You see that plus button right there? That is going to save your project, or it's going to save your block. So we're going to push save. And so it saved the block. We're going to go over here to the quilt work table, and we're going to get ready to set our blocks into our quilt. So we need to hit, first let's hit the layout button, and that's going to tell us how many blocks we're going to have on our quilt, because right now we only have like a 3x3, and that's not very big. If you look over here to the left, you can see that's only making us a 38x38 quilt. Well, we want something bigger than that. So let's click up. Let's click up to, like, this is 8, will be 89. If we make it 7x7, that'll be 89x89. Well, actually, yeah, about 89x89. Whenever you get a diagonal setting, there's often a little, tenth of a numbers out here, but we'll just, for our purposes, we'll just call it 89x89. If you were going to put sashing, well, first off, the finished size of our block is 9. And if we wanted sashing, we could add sashing here, but we're not adding sashing for our quilt today. And so we're going to go up here. We were on layout and we had an on-point layout. Now we're moving over to design, because now we're actually designing the quilt. So we're going to push the design button, and we want to be able to put our block into the quilt. And our block is this last one down here. I played with this a little bit before I came with you and to show you what we're doing. But so here's our block that we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to push this button right here that says set block. So we push that, we come down here, we click the block we want, and we want this one. And so we're just going to put the block in. And so what we do is we come over here after we've clicked this, and this is highlighted, we come over here to the quilt work page, and we actually click. And wherever that little arrow is at, that's where the block is going to go into the quilt at. And all I do is click. But one thing that we can do to make it all kind of faster is we can come over here and we can work with the block. Where is the button that I want? Sometimes I'm not always good at this. I think I'm going to go over to the fabric button. That's not the one I want. We'll just put all these blocks in. So we're going to just click away and put the blocks in. For you pros at EQ, you probably already know that there's probably some button that will just fill them all in, but I am not seeing that button and I don't want to waste your time. So I'm just going to click away and put the blocks in. So all I'm doing is clicking each box and then the quilt block appears. And this is starting to look like the quilt that I bought. So there, if you wanted to call it done, you probably could call it done. But my quilt, the outside edge of the quilt has the setting triangles that are blue. And you know what? After I look at my quilt, we did something that we shouldn't have done. These alternate blocks are supposed to be blue. I just ended up putting them all in this color. So let's go, and we're going to just erase these blocks. So I hit the, see over here, the erase button. I went over here and I'm clicking the erase button because in the quilt that I bought, it doesn't have. So just like that, I'm just clicking through and I'm getting rid of those blocks. Okay. Now for this to look more like a quilt that I would actually be making, I think that I would like to rotate some of these blocks because every block has these dark ones on the bottom and it just doesn't look like you'd actually make a scrappy quilt. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit the rotate button and I'm just going to hit a few of these randomly and I just click on them, and so the position of the block rotates, just because if we're going to actually make a scrappy quilt, all of the blocks aren't going to be in the same spot. So along that lines, I do want to color in these other blocks right here, the alternate blocks. So I'm going to come back up here and you can see where I'm in the design area. I want to come over here
right here to the fabric tools, and I'm going to hit fabric tools. And then I'm going to hit the paintbrush button over here. And let's say that we want to pick a color for the alternate blocks. In my quilt, it was actually a little floral pattern, but we don't have a floral pattern option here in blue. So I'm just going to pick this blue right here. And so I'm going to go like this. I'm going to push the swap color button up here, swap color, and I'm going to go like this. And that made everything that was that white color turn to this blue color. So we could stop right here, and this would be where the quilt was at. As far as we have designed or recreated the quilt that I bought at the junk store, but we probably want to do a little bit more than that, just so that you can learn a little bit more about EQ. So let's say that you don't like this light blue. Let's say that you'd rather go with maybe this teal down here. You see the teal and you like that color better. So I'm going to hit the teal button. We're still in the swap color tool that's on, and so we're just going to go to this blue and we're going to hit, and that swapped out the color. That really changed it. I'm not a real fan of that. That's a little bit too greenish for me. I'm not a green fan. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to find a different color. I'm going to find this, maybe if you look right here, and I'm going to pick this navy instead. We're still in the swap color button. So if I click here, everything's going to turn navy. Okay, now that I like. I really like that a lot. So it's just kind of fun to play with the quilt. We can play a little bit more. Let's say we want to go back to the blocks, and remember when I was kind of prepping this for you before I showed you all, I did a couple other blocks. So I'm going to go back to the block tools. I'm going to push set the block, and I'm going to pick another block, and I'm going to see if one of these other blocks I created and see what we think of that. So I'm going to take this block, because doesn't this one look kind of fun? And I have the set block on. I have that block. I'm going to click here. Okay, and I'm just going to click all the way through. Oh, wow. That really gives the quilt a different look. You can see the block I created here is kind of a mimic of this block because it has a square in the square, but this one is set differently, has an extra square inside that square. Oh, I kind of like that red. Okay, that would be a nice quilt of valor. What if we came in here and went like this and clicked those? Oh, wow. That really changed the look. I actually really like that. Very interesting quilt. Would be a great quilt for a quilt of valor. Let's say that you really do want to do this for a quilt of valor. Well, I'm guessing you might want to change the size. I'm not sure what the exact size for quilt of valors are, but we'll go over here to the layout button. It's on the upper left. And so right now it was 7 by 7 is 89 by 89. Well, I know quilt of valors don't need to be that big. So let's go down to 5 by 5 and we can switch that. So now we'll have about 63 by 63. I think that's getting closer to an acceptable size. So we're going to go back to the design and we're going to see our quilt, and some things changed because we changed the size of the quilt so it doesn't look quite the same as it did before. So let's get this cleaned up and let's play a little bit more. So what we want to do is we want to change this setting triangle and this setting triangle to blue. So we're going to hit the fabric tools button and we're going to click that dark blue again. We're going to come here and we're going to click and click. Well, this kind of looks awkward. If you're into asymmetrical quilts, this would be fine, but I'm not really into asymmetrical quilts. So what we need to do is like this block right here, we need to change. So we're going to push that blue and we're just going to, first we're going to go over to block tools and we're going to erase the block. So this button right here, erase the block, come over because we don't want that block there. And other than that, let's go back to setting a block. So we're going to push set the block because we need a few more blocks in here. Let's go back to that red one and put that into the border there. All I did was click on the block. It was highlighted. I came over and clicked on the screen. Well, now we need to turn this block right here to blue. So we're going to go back up here. We're going to go to fabric tools again, and we want that block to be blue. Oh, that looks pretty cool, doesn't it?
So let's just play a little bit more. Maybe you think you might want these inside ones to be red too. So we can find the red. I think it's this red, and we could click. I was on the swap button. I didn't want that to happen. Oh no, I wanted to leave that outer border blue. So what do? We come over here. This little arrow way, way, way to the left is the undo button. So all I do is click that, and that's not done anymore. So I need to get off the swap button because that's what I did before, and I need to go over here, and I need to go to the paintbrush button. So I have the paintbrush, and let's say I wanted those red. Okay, do you like that better? Did you like it better than before? You can just, the fun thing is that you can just play and see what you like. I don't know. I'm not sure what I like. I think I like this better. So let's say we actually want to put a bigger border on the quilt. So we're going to go up here to borders, which is at the very top. And we're going to make our borders bigger. Right now it says our border is 1 inch by 1 inch. Well, that seems a little bit small. Let's go probably even 2 inches by 2 inches might be better. And all of them change because the all button is clicked right here. Otherwise you'd go left and right, or the top and bottom, you can click those. Otherwise you can click the all button. The all button was already clicked for me. So I'm going to do that. And while I'm here, I'm going to add a binding. They don't actually have a binding button. So what I do instead is I just add another border. So it says select the border. We're just going to push add a border. So now you can see that change to 2. And right now it says that that border is 1 by 1. Well, when I'm designing a quilt, what I do is I just change that to 0.25. And I decide that that's what the border is going to be. Okay, so now we can see we have a wider border, and then we have our binding, what we're calling our binding. So we're going back to the design button up here at the top, clicking that. We're going to figure out what do we want to do for that binding. So let's decide, do we want to try red? So we're going to get that paintbrush button. So I click the red, it's highlighted. I go over here and click. Whoops, I'm trying to get on there. It's a little bit tricky because it's so narrow. That very tip of the paintbrush has to be in the color area for it to turn red. And I'm scrolling a little bit to get to that bottom button. So this is what our quilt would look like if we ended up with this design. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is there, maybe you don't like, maybe you do not like red. And I don't know how that could be true because red's my favorite color. But let's say you don't. Let's say that you want to experiment and you want to do, and you prefer green, or better yet, maybe you really do like red. What would happen if we swap the color and we push this red, and in the white, we turned all the white to red? What do you think of that? That really changes the look of the quilt. And one of the things I like about EQ is I can play, and it's kind of fun just to play. Maybe I want to go through and I want to randomize, and I want to go to the paintbrush button over here. I want to click that blue. Maybe I want to see what it would look like if I had like that block floating there. And maybe go down here too. Oh, what do you think of that? That's a completely different design. Maybe you want to do something like this. All you have to do when you're in EQ is click, and you can create different quilts just as quickly as I just did right there, which is just crazy to me. You can even do things like this. I mean, I don't know that I love that. And the fun thing is, if I don't love it, I can come over here and hit the undo button, the undo button, the undo button, and I have them all right back to the same color. So it's been really interesting to me playing with EQ. You can do so many things. Look, we're not even at our original quilt that we were at before. If along the way you want to save a few things, you can just go over here and hit the save button, and your project gets saved. And I really like that about the project, about EQ, is that I can save several different looks of the quilts as I work along. So that simple little quilt that I bought at the junk store
really has turned into a lot of fun for me because I've been playing with EQ and designing and seeing what I like about things. And so, hey, wait, I have an idea. What if I would change right here? See, this is what happens. I think I'm done with the design and then I start playing some more. So I have this white, and what if I put white right here? Do you like that better? Do you like the other one better? It's really hard to tell. Oh, I could change these to white too. That kind of has a medallion look to it. I don't know. The fun thing with EQ is that you can try lots of different things before you put your money into fabric and spend the money on a project that you don't know if you're going to love or not. You can kind of see it on EQ to see if it's something that you're going to really enjoy making or if you're really going to enjoy doing. I've found that I've created a lot of different things simply because of EQ, and I've designed them differently because it's so easy just to change the colors and design differently. For example, I would have never thought to make a 9-patch block and then put 3 corners on one side and 1 corner a different color. I would never have put 3 red corners on and 1 white corner. But when I look at that, when I look at it in this design, hey, it looks pretty cool. So this might be something that I want to do sometime again. And maybe I'll actually make this quilt. Maybe I'll go back to making the style that it was that I got at the junk store. I hope you had a fun time hanging out with me and EQ. And if you are loving this or enjoying this, please let me know and I'll try to do another video again because I do really enjoy playing in EQ. I never ever thought I would say that, but it's been a lot of fun and I'm so glad that my daughter Kayla kind of nudged me along the way and said, hey, come on, Mom, it's time. So thanks so much for joining me and have a good day.